It's time for Soccer Talk with FC Tucson.
And we are officially live here from Fort Lowell Park for the 2015 Tucson Association of Realtors Shootout. Joey Putrelo here for Soccer Talk with FC Tucson, along with Greg Foster of FC Tucson and Dave Ord of the Arizona Daily Star. And right now it's the silver anniversary of this beautiful Fort Lowell Shootout tournament. 349 teams are here in attendance. An estimated $4 million has been raised towards the Tucson economy. Last night there was a parade of athletes, a Pizza Hut Soccer Olympics, and an accuracy shoot. It was just a day of fun and games. And today the tournament play kicked off at 7:45 a.m. and will tomorrow the same time. And this is big time, guys. Even American Idol finalist Crystal Stark was here to sing the national anthem.
All right. Well, yes, this is big time. I know we'll have a little bit later in the show Diana Cannon from the Tucson Association of Realtors Shootout board to talk about the tournament. But you're right. This is one of the biggest things that happens in the Tucson soccer community every year, and it's been happening for now 25 years.
And Dave, you said before the show, perfect weather, and it's a great thing that we got a sunny day this morning.
Isn't it amazing? It's nice, it's beautiful, it's crisp out here. As the day goes on, it's going to warm up. I think it's supposed to be like near the 70s. Not that I'm a weatherman or anything, but it looks like it's going to be gorgeous here. I see all these wonderful booths getting prepared for the day. We got Gauna's Mexican food, which I can't wait to get into, and one of my favorite mini donut places over there. And then we got the place I love to come to every Fort Lowell Shootout. It's a little haberdashery they have over there where they got all of your James Rodriguez jerseys and your Lionel Messi cards, which we've already purchased a couple of and are sharing with others. It's a wonderful day out here. I love this place, and I love coming out every Saturday and Sunday morning when they have it at the beginning of the year. This is one of those events where, to me, the soccer season goes all year round, so it never really stops. But this is, to start off the year, this kicks it off with that iconic boot that they have on the logo and on the posters. And I think this always just kind of says, hey, the year started, and it's awesome.
I agree, and I would just like to say that Dave Ord has purchased for me an official Messi card collection at that haberdashery that he was describing. We're not only broadcasting live, but we're filming the show. So for those of us who see this later, I am showing the Messi card collection to the camera, and it apparently has some like playing cards for him from when it looks like he's about 6 years old until the present.
I got one
those will be worth.
I got one that's got him with the kids at some kind of UNICEF thing, so I'm keeping that one for sure. It'll remind me of not only him, but of this Fort Lowell Shootout with all the kids out here.
All right, well, now we have Diana Cannon here, the tournament director. Diana, thank you so much for hosting us here this morning, and what a great event you have going on.
Well, thank you for being here and being part of this wonderful celebration, our 25th anniversary.
And congrats on the silver anniversary. I wanted to ask you first, how have you seen this event grow throughout the years? Because it's been going on for a long time.
Well, you know, 25 years ago, it started out at 100, a little under 100 teams, I think. And now today we're at 349. It's grown from kind of being the community event. We were able to draw in the very beginning, a few teams in from Phoenix area. And now we're bringing in teams from across the western states. We've had, across the 25 years, we've had teams in from Thailand, from several teams that came in from England, from Poland. So it's grown internationally, and we hope that we're going to continue to have that kind of growth.
In a way, it's kind of mirrored what soccer's done all over the country in many ways and shapes and forms, and I think that's really one of the testaments to it.
It has. You know, and one of the things we want to continue to do is our outreach across the United States. We'd like to get some teams in here that are from the East Coast. Even though they, you know, right now they're not practicing because they're knee deep in snow and freezing cold. But that's one of the next things in the next decade. We'd like to be able to have more of a reach in the East Coast.
I know if I were back there, I'd be wanting to get out here as soon as I could when I see a day like this.
No doubt about it. You know, Diana, Dave was talking about the Fort Lowell Shootout, the Tucson Association of Realtors Shootout, mirroring the growth of youth soccer around the country or youth soccer itself. I'm not sure I totally agree. I think this is a unique tournament. Can you kind of describe how this tournament is different than maybe the typical competitive tournament that kids might go to week in, week out?
Well, this event started out 25 years ago by Bill Viner and Ruben Fernandez, who were coaching at the time, and they did a lot of out of state, but more kind of just California local. And so one of the things they noticed was that they would go, and Friday night, you've got 18 boys. What are you going to do? Where do you go to take 18 boys out for dinner where they're going to behave themselves? But they wanted something that was more of a family event. And I think that's what has evolved with soccer. It's become more of a family event. It's become more families who start out with their kids at under 6. They're playing at 5 and 6 years old. And then their families get involved. And then they become referees. And then they become coaches. And that's what this event has evolved to. It's become, I think, it's mirrored the family environment of soccer. Friday night is what's made this unique. There is no other tournament across the country that has this kind of opening ceremony, parade of athletes, go into their soccer Olympics that really replicates what Olympics is about. So we're very proud that we're able to be the standout in the premier event that has those kinds of family environment, and the kids can just come and have fun.
Now, you host this event at Fort Lowell Park. What's the best part about having the shootout here?
Well, Fort Lowell Park is really pretty central, but this is the heart of Fort Lowell Soccer Club, and this is who we are. So we're very proud of the fact that we can continue to have this at Fort Lowell Park. I know you're going to say, Greg, you're going to look at me and go, oh, yeah, but you're outgrowing this. We are. And that's one of the things that we need to look at long term. Is this the right place to have our headquarters? But it is who Fort Lowell Soccer Club is. We have 11 different sites that we use across the city. So we're using city and county parks. And I have to put a plug in for Tucson Parks and Recreation, because they work tirelessly to get the fields and the complexes ready for us.
Well, the good news is there's so many teams that the entire city and unincorporated Pima County field infrastructure is used for the Fort Lowell Shootout. I mean, a tournament with 350 teams is not going to be able to be contained in one location in Tucson. So, I think Fort Lowell is a wonderful place for the headquarters. It's such a big tournament, I can maybe see a second headquarters.
I like the way he thinks.
One of the things I've liked about it, though, is it's been able to keep that community feel, even though it's at 11 different places all over this town.
Right, right.
It's like every Saturday morning, but what I call in monstrocosm, because it's like taking something small.
Okay, can you spell that?
I'm a writer. I don't need to spell it. No, wait a minute. I do need to spell it. But it's my own word, by the way. But it takes something that people do every Saturday,
yes,
all over the nation, all over the world, and turns it into like an even bigger party for that particular Saturday and Sunday. That's one of the amazing things I've always thought about it. I mean, literally, anybody gets out and drives today, anywhere in Tucson, they'll cross these kids playing soccer somewhere along the way.
They will.
And that gets to my heart.
And they can be a part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. This is a community event, and we love it that it starts out our big what do I want to say? All the events that start the next 3 weeks or the next month. It's the tournament, it's the Tucson Association of Realtors Shootout, it's the Gem Show, and then it's the rodeo.
And it's the Desert Diamond Cup.
And it's the Desert Diamond Cup.
Is there not two greater months of the year than January and February?
This is the time to be here.
I would argue there aren't.
For
definitely.
Soccer in Tucson, at least. So, Diana, you talked about Bill Viner and Ruben Fernandez, their wives also part founders in this as well. What have they done for soccer in this community beyond this tournament?
Well, through their efforts in this, they've raised the level of awareness of soccer over the last 25 years. They set the foundation for youth soccer to be recognized and to have one of the largest tournament in the state. You know, it's with their efforts really grounded youth soccer in Tucson and the surrounding area.
How many people work or volunteer all together in this thing every year?
It takes about 500 volunteers to make this work. But I have to recognize the 40 people that are on the tournament committee that work all year round to help make this happen for our community and for the athletes.
Yeah, I mean, to see something go off as cleanly as this goes off every year.
It's a well-oiled machine.
It's amazing. It really is.
It's a well-oiled machine, and it's I don't have anything to do with it. I just stand up. Really,
That's
seriously,
not true.
I really do feel that I call and say, okay, this is the schedule of the meetings, and this committee just steps up, and every year they come through.
For you guys, what is the most difficult part about this? Is it scheduling? Is it making sure you have all the fields? What makes this one where you really have to work? You talk about these people who are working so hard. What is the hardest thing you guys have to do?
You know what? Every year we sit down and we go, okay, what can we do different? Well, how can we make this one even more special? So that's probably the one thing that, you think, because how can you improve on something that Bill and Ruben started that just is so good? And every year they looked at it and the things that they wanted to do. I think Bill mentioned that in the Olympics events, one of the years, to make it different, they added the accuracy shooting because that then became popular. One year we tried doing soccer tennis. I don't know, Greg, if you remember that.
You should bring that back.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, my daughter's here and she runs registration, and she participated in the very first year that we did soccer tennis over here on the soccer, and everything you did, you had to do with your feet, of course. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. We did that. We had a dance, and then we had the sumo wrestlers out here. So probably the hardest thing is to sit down and go, okay, what can we do to make this better? But that's the fun part of it too.
Let me just ask you this. Can you comment maybe a little bit on the role of the sponsors in bringing this kind of an event to the community? I mean, I think that, much like what FC Tucson does, it would be very hard to put together a program like this without real community sponsorship.
Oh, absolutely. You can't. They're the heart and soul. Because of the Tucson Association of Realtors, and their commitment, not just to the event, but their commitment to the vision that this is a community program, and that we're here all year long. Like you said, you play soccer all year long, and this tournament is all year long. We're talking about it all year long, and they're with us in our outreach. They've opened up doors to others. To other corporate sponsors that say, hey, this is something good. This is good for our community. It's good for our youth. So absolutely, they make it very, very special. Probably, I do have to say one of the challenges though is parking.
Yes.
And I have to throw that out there. But again, this committee has come together in working with Tucson Police Department. I mean, we had 500 cars parked over here over by the pond last night. But, that's one of the things. That's one of the challenges. I just have to throw that out as a funny.
We have the director of the Tucson Association of Realtors Shootout with us, Diana Cannon. Diana, talk a little bit about last night. You had a huge event here, a lot of fun and games going on to prepare for the highly competitive matches that are taking place this morning.
Well, last night, of course, is that's the premiere of part of the program is the parade of teams, opening ceremonies of parade of teams, and like you mentioned, last night we had American Idol's finalist that sang our national anthem. Crystal Stark was here with us. We also had fireworks. And so that's the first time we'd ever done that.
Awesome.
So last night was probably I think we had we still had cars coming in here even after the parade had started.
Wow.
So,
when I drive in here, you go down Fort Lowell and you see a sign, one of those diamond orange signs, the traffic signs, and it says special event. And that's what this is. It's a special event.
It's a special event.
You know, and we really appreciate, from just the soccer fan and writer like me to the people who play, we really appreciate that it goes on, whether, you know, it's not highly competitive or the kids are just out to have fun. We really appreciate it. We appreciate what you and all the other folks do out there.
Well, thank you. It's important to us that our athletes, it's the love of the game. It
Absolutely.
really is encouraging the love of the game and good sportsmanship.
Diana, one more question before we have to head to break. What's next for this tournament, and what's next for you?
Oh boy, you're really putting me on the spot. What's next for this tournament? I think that in the next decade, what we really want to work on is our outreach to across the United States to get a better representation from the East Coast teams. We'd like to bring them in and show this how special this is. I'm retiring.
Oh my gosh! Is this
no.
breaking news on our show?
This is breaking news on your
that's
show.
Not the kind of news we want to break on this show.
So I'll always be involved, and I'll be involved as the past director. But and when you said what's the next stage, you know, there's such a great group of people that can come in and just bring new life, new energy, new ideas, creativity, and so it's time to pass the torch.
All right. Well, Diana, thank you so much for having us here, and thanks so much for coming on the show this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here.
We appreciate your time. All right. Well, that was Diana Cannon, the director here of this wonderful Tucson Association of Realtors Shootout, and we have a standing ovation for her out here.
Yes. You know, like when a soccer player comes off the field, if everybody really appreciates what they did in the game, they stand up and they clap above their heads like this. So that's what I'm going to do right now.
All right. Well, thanks again to Diana. We're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, 3 FC Tucson players were just drafted to the Major League Soccer. Otis Earl, Connor Brandt, and Christian Valesky. We're going to talk about that and the FC Tucson Desert Friendlies that are coming up next on Soccer Talk with FC Tucson on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM.
The 2015 MLS Preseason in Tucson kicks off with the first match of the Desert Friendly. See the Portland Timbers take on Sporting Kansas City at Keno Sports Complex January 31st at 6 p.m. by heading to shop.fctucson.com to purchase your ticket.
And we're back here again from Fort Lowell Park for the 25th Annual Tucson Association of Realtors Shootout. I'm Joey Putrelo here with Greg Foster of FC Tucson and Dave Ord of the Arizona Daily Star. We just had Diana Cannon on, the tournament's director, and what a great interview that was. A great personality and definitely someone that's improved soccer in this community and done a lot for the sport.
It's really years of dedication to what is one of the preeminent events every year in Tucson, both from a local community standpoint, from a tourism standpoint, and just from an all-around fun standpoint. I was talking with Dave Ord off the air about our own family's participation in this tournament. I think my kids played in a total of about 8 Fort Lowell shootouts. I miss it. It's been 2 years for us, and I'd really love to head out to the parade again, with a bunch of kids in costume, although now that my younger son is almost 16, it might be
not a
stand
chance.
out a little bit amongst the little kids. But Diana's done an amazing amount of work. I didn't know before we came on air that she was retiring, and had I known that, I think I would have talked a little bit more about that too. She and Kirk Cannon have been a driving force in this event, and the event is going to miss Diana. Tucson's going to miss Diana in this role.
All right, well, we have exciting news from FC Tucson, a big accomplishment for the organization as it had its first-round draft pick in the MLS Super Draft this year. Otis Earl going 15th overall to FC Dallas, and then 2 other FC Tucson players got picked as well. Connor Brandt was the number 2 pick of the second round, and then Christian Valesky went 32nd overall to the Portland Timbers, and Valesky was also MVP of the MLS Player Combine. All 3 of these guys were invited to that Player Combine. They showed their skills, and now here they are, and they're going to be competing for a spot on MLS rosters.
Well, we maybe ought to put this in context a little bit. If you're a fan of European soccer, and somebody said, "Hey, a player went in the draft," it would make no sense. There's no such thing. There's no draft in the English Premier League or in La Liga. There's just this constant progression from the youth system up through the higher levels of the game, possibly to the senior squad. In America, of course, it's completely different. It's much more like the NFL or the NBA. And so what was happening this week is Major League Soccer was doing what the NFL and the NBA do each year, which is look at the top college prospects and pick them for teams based on a succession and ordering of the teams that's determined in many different ways, but mostly based upon where the team finished the previous year in an effort to develop parity, all that. So it's very similar to the NFL and NBA draft. And what has happened is 3 FC Tucson players were picked in the first 33 picks. And if you think about that, and you maybe look at what can happen for a college football program like the U of A football team or a college basketball program like the U of A basketball team, what would it be like if 3 U of A basketball players in 1 year were picked within the first 33 picks of the NBA draft? It would be gigantic. And that's what this is for these players who are selected.
And that actually might happen this year with Stanley Johnson, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, and Gabe York potentially leaving. But also, what do you think their chances are of making the MLS rosters, Dave? These guys are all very accomplished. Otis Earl, definitely a big body, highly skilled, and he's a defender. Brandt was the Player of the Year of the West Coast Conference over at San Diego, and Valesky had an impressive career over at Southern Illinois Edwardsville as well. So what are the chances, do you think, of these guys making it in the MLS?
Well, I think all 3 of them are extremely talented players, and they definitely have a chance. Sometimes in situations like this, it boils down to how many people you have who'd be fighting for in that particular position, whether the coach suits more that type of player's style of play. There are a lot of different factors. By being drafted, unlike the NBA, where those guys have a contract, they're going to be on the roster for the first round. This is the number 1 pick, could not be with the team. So it's a lot more kind of a crapshoot than the other ones per se. So, it really generally boils down to how great they play during that period they're there and whether they fit into what the team really looks like they're going to need. And sometimes with coaches who've come in, one of the MLS coaches, they just picked in January. So things are turning around. It's very fast moving. They'll all realize they need to be working 100% from the moment they step on the field and show they're willing to be the best team player they can be in addition to being a good individual player. I'm sure they all have great shots at it, but, there's in no way in the world, I don't think anybody could tell you, even the most astute scout in the world could tell you whether all 3 of these guys can make it or which one of them has the best chance. It just often depends on what happens for that month in the late January and February that we're going to see here, as a matter of fact, with one of the players.
That's right. I mean, you've really just highlighted one of the very important aspects of Major League Soccer preseason, and that is to figure out whether these highly talented players that each of the teams have drafted are going to fit into that team system. And now with the new arrangement with USL Pro in Major League Soccer, where USL Pro essentially becomes like a AAA franchise for Major League Soccer teams, these players, it's not just can I make the squad of the senior team, it's also, can you select a player now who's a project, who maybe you can put in your USL Pro side for a year, have him grow into the position, grow into the sort of professional environment, and then move him up. So, this new arrangement between Major League Soccer and USL Pro is really helping to grow the game by bringing players into the system that otherwise may not have been able to stay in the system. It gives them a place to develop here in the United States. And so, one of the things that we'll see in preseason now, since Christian Valesky's been drafted by the Portland Timbers, when the Timbers are here in Tucson, Christian, a former FC Tucson player, is going to be fighting for that spot on the Timbers roster. I think it gives a lot more meaning to what preseason is all about. It truly is when the teams are finally selected.
Now, Coach Rick Shantz of FC Tucson said that one day he'd like to have an FC Tucson alumni match of all MLS players. How long do you think that's going to take?
Let me preface that a little bit, because I talked to him yesterday on the phone, and he said the same thing to me. He said it's starting out jokingly, but then I kind of got the feeling he really would like to see one of those along the way. It is kind of a dream of his, and I can't. I mean, the way things are going right now, I could see one in, like you said, 4 or 5 years. There could be one out there. Again, sometimes it just matters if you get the right people and things kind of jive right. But just the thought that could even be put in somebody's head is impressive in the first place, that there is a possibility this could happen. To think that 3 guys who played here, Connor Brandt's case for all 3 years, and, for the other guys just this past year, but that all 3 of them one day could be stars in the MLS or even just regulars in the MLS. I mean, that's really amazing. And you can say, I saw them 5 years ago when they were playing here. It's pretty impressive.
Well, one of our jobs, probably our primary job at FC Tucson, is to be a development team. And what that really means is to take soccer players who see themselves as professionals, who have prepared themselves to be professionals, but who are just a little bit young. They're between, maybe the ages of 19 and 22, 23, and help those players cross that bridge to the professional level. So, the PDL has 64 teams. We had 3 players picked in the top 33. If you think about that, I think that tells you the kind of work that John Perlman and Rick Shantz are doing on the technical side. We have far overperformed in terms of developing players in this particular season. All
right, well, Otis Earl, 15th overall to FC Dallas. Connor Brandt, the number 2 of the second round, to NYCFC. And Christian Valesky goes 32nd overall to the Portland Timbers. We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the FC on Desert Friendlies. And Paul Cunningham will join us, Ward 2 Councilman. This is Soccer Talk with FC Tucson on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 1049 FM.
Go to shop.fctucson.com to purchase tickets to the 2015 Desert Diamond Cup.
Live from Fort Lowell Park here for the Tucson Association of Realtors Shootout Tournament. Soccer Talk with FC Tucson rolls on. I'm Joey Putrelo here with Greg Foster of FC Tucson and Dave Ord of the Arizona Daily Star. We started the show off with Diana Cannon, the tournament's director, to come on to talk about the tournament a little bit. Then in the last segment, we discussed 3 FC Tucson players being picked to the MLS draft. Otis Earl, 15th overall to FC Dallas. Connor Brandt, the number 2 pick of the second round to NYCFC. And Christian Valesky, 32nd overall to the Portland Timbers. And real quick before we get to our next guest, Paul Cunningham, Greg, you said that Connor Brandt is going to receive minutes for New York City FC this season.
Well, I'm not Jason Christ, so I can't. I'm not the manager of that team, so I can't guarantee it. But Matthew Doyle, who writes Armchair Analysts on MLSsoccer.com, and I think is always worth a read and always has a pretty prescient opinions, went through a list of certain draftees, and he selected or highlighted Connor Brandt as a player that might get minutes this year for New York City Football Club. And, that just sets my mind on fire. I mean, what does that play look like? Is it like, Lampard to Diskerud to Brandt? Brandt whips it in to David Villa, who scores for NYCFC.
In Yankee Stadium.
In Yankee Stadium.
I mean, the thought of that is just in itself pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Even that soccer is played at Yankee Stadium.
That's incredible.
Much less, its own team there. That really amazes me.
That's right, and that kid was running around for the last 3 years at Keno Sports Complex for fans in Tucson. So that shows you kind of the way the game, the way people sort of progress through the game if they can. To have him playing with world-class players like that is like a dream come true.
It is pretty amazing, Greg, and let's move on now. We have a guest waiting on the phone right now, Paul Cunningham. He's the Ward 2 Councilman. Paul, thanks for taking time out of your morning to join us.
Happy Martin Luther King Day weekend, but also happy Fort Lowell Shootout weekend. It's a real special thing in Tucson, and congratulations to Connor on his contract. That's unbelievable.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. And I wanted to start this interview off with asking you, what does this tournament do for Tucson beyond growing soccer?
Well, beyond growing soccer, this is one of the biggest and most premier youth and soccer events in the nation. It is one of the staples in our community. It gives us a huge boost in hotel room and tourism industry. Believe it or not, that's how the folks who work in that industry bring home paychecks on Friday. It's something that's special. That was a vision that came out of Bill Viner's vision about 25 years ago. It's really something special. It's something that was a natural fit for Tucson because of the weather. But really, Tucson had a strong youth soccer presence before soccer itself emerged as a sport here in the United States. I mean, you can really look at soccer as far, and I'm not talking about just soccer in general. Like, as a soccer fan, everybody knows that I am. But I'm talking about soccer from a pure sports industry number standpoint. And those numbers really don't emerge until the post-94 World Cup, the beginning of MLS. But then they, believe it or not, the first big soccer TV rating and things like that actually goes back to the 98 gold medal final in a women's game. And so you look at those two kind of watershed events, watershed moments for soccer in the United States, where it crossed over, where actual fans of baseball, actual fans of football and basketball moved into loyalty for soccer teams. Those events happened, and right there with it was the Fort Lowell Shootout, which is something that Tucson can be proud of to call its own. It's something that's probably one of the most important events in my ward. Fort Lowell Park is in my ward, and we get to see a great group. We get to have the parade at Fort Lowell Park every year. It's one of the most important events for Fort Lowell Park. So, again, it's really something special. I had the privilege of coaching in that event last year. I coached my two sons, and walking in that parade and participating in that parade is just something that I'd urge every family to be a part of at least once while they live here in Tucson.
Councilmember Cunningham, what sort of costume were you wearing in the parade?
I just had on a shirt that said Dragon. I mean,
understated.
We had a team. We had a great team last year, and we definitely we controlled the ball well for that age group and that skill level. I think of the 8 players who played for us last year, 6 or 7 are on club teams this year. We were kind of an independent team that kind of just threw ourselves in, and we just wanted to be a part of it. So it's really exciting to see that kind of dynamic here in Tucson. And, so who knows, whatever players we see out here could be tomorrow's Junior USA players and maybe play in the World Cup someday. That'd be a great thing to look into. I bet you that we've got some research if we can dig up all the programs. How many kids who come out here have played in international games or have a cap, if you will? And I bet you we could probably find that out. That would be a great little research project for one of the statisticians.
Well, Paul, Kurt Cannon, one of the directors of the Tucson Association of Realtors Shootout, is actually sitting right here by our remote desk with a smile on his face, listening to you talk about the competitive side of the Fort Lowell Shootout. A lot is made properly about how fun it is as a recreational event, what a big tourism draw is. But one point that Kurt likes to emphasize is it's hard to win the shootout. And so, maybe talk a little bit about, as a coach last year, what it took to try to compete in this tournament.
Well, I mean, you've got some of the most advanced and best soccer programs in the country coming out here. We've got some of the best teams in the Southwest, up and down every age bracket, from gold flight. Some of these bronze flight teams or just recreational teams that come in actually play a pretty high level of soccer, and that's a testament to the type of coaching and the type of volunteers that we have in this region that volunteer their time, volunteer their treasure, volunteer their resources to make the teams that we put on the field down here the best they can be. And what I think is going to happen, as you go through it, you'll see that not only from a competitive standpoint, but also a sportsmanship standpoint, a citizenship standpoint, and a transition to other sports standpoint. We've had some great teams over the years here in Tucson. There was one team that almost won nationals in 1986, and that team had, I think, 11 different Division I athletes in various sports, whether it was track and field, football, soccer, and baseball. And I remember that team. So, we've always had great teams come out of soccer in Tucson, and we've had great athletes come out of Tucson where they started their first maybe team sport was soccer. And that's something we can't forget. The soccer thing started happening in the mid-'80s with youth, but it's really emerged in the last 20 years, last 25 years. to be one of the mainstream sports that people aspire to.
Now, Paul, as you probably know, the MLS preseason in Tucson is coming up. The FC Tucson Desert Diamond Cup running from February 18th to the 28th of February. It's the third annual tournament. You had a pretty big role in creating the Desert Diamond Cup, so why don't you talk about that and how you helped get it all started?
Well, I hope people have heard this story. I had Ricky Schatz and Greg into my office with my old aide, Dimitri Downing, and the four of us sat down, and I looked at Greg Foster, who I'd only met, I think once previously for 2 minutes, and said, dude, you're going to bring big-time soccer to Tucson, Arizona. And I think Greg looked at me with his mouth open, and then as the conversation kind of materialized, everybody in the room agreed that we had the right people in the room to kind of get things started, and we had the Desert Cup. And the big thing about the Desert Cup, and I don't think we realized it when it started, was that I don't think we actually believed that 10,000 people would show up. And I think we got lucky that we booked a team that had both Omar Bravo and Rafa Marquez on it, who were huge draws from down south. I remember Felipe Garcia from the MTCBB called up Dimitri and said, oh, my God, we got to open another lane in Nogales because the line has been backed up halfway down to Hermosillo. I mean, so those are great things. They're great stories, and it built us something that, look, man, I'll be honest with you. I'm as much of a baseball and football and basketball fan as I am a soccer fan. I'm a sports fan all the way around. And when we lost spring training, it wasn't just a hit to Tucson economically. It wasn't just a hit to Tucson pride-wise. It was a gash to our whole psyche, to the whole thing that is Tucson. We didn't have a lot to be proud of. And getting soccer back and getting the Desert Diamond Cup as one of the premier preseason soccer events in the world right now is so special. It totally brought back some of that je ne sais quoi for Tucson. And so that was so important for us. You know, that weekend that we have the DDC and we have the rodeo and we have the GEMSO kind of closing up, that's one of the busiest weekends. That's that weekend when Tucson gets to be the center of the universe.
Now we have Councilman of Ward 2, Paul Cunningham, on the line with us right now. Paul, I was talking to your colleague Ted Przelski yesterday, and he joins our show a lot as one of the co-hosts, and you played on an indoor soccer team with him. Can you talk about his skill set as a footballer?
Oh, does this have to happen?
Wait, what happened?
Joey wants you to comment on Ted Przelski's soccer skills, because apparently you guys are teammates on an indoor team.
Ted Przelski is an outstanding soccer player. He's one of the best fullbacks of all time. He knows how to direct the defense and mark players. And I gotta say, I think his speed off the ball is unworldly. So, anyway,
I've always been surprised. I've always been surprised he hasn't made the Polish national team before.
All things considered, I love Ted. You know, he's a great asset to this community. It's a pleasure to work with him every day. And, you know, I got to tell you guys that playing in that indoor team was, this is, again, this is 20 years ago. This is in 95, 96 or something. This is 20 years ago. It still wasn't. Soccer still really hadn't emerged where you had big numbers, but here in Tucson we had that. We were building that solid little foundation. It goes back to the Finers who started FLSC, who started the Fort Lowell Shootout. But the other thing is, people don't remember they also own the Tucson Amigos and the work that went into that laid the foundation for the success that FC Tucson is today. I'd like to think I had a little part of it, but really the credit goes out to John Perlman and Rick and Greg and Dimitri and Chris Keeney as well, who kind of got everything started and you know, with what it is now, it's just something that's so special that Tucson holds dear to its heart.
All right, well, Paul Cunningham, the Ward 2 councilman, just joined us live here on Soccer Talk with FC Tucson. Paul, thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you, Paul.
Guys, let's have a great shootout. Let's have a great weekend, and let's enjoy the heck out of the 25th, the Silver Fort Lowell Shootout.
All right. Well, once again, that was Paul Cunningham, the Ward 2 councilman. Let's continue this segment with a short interview. We have our friend here, Richard Elias on the line. Richard, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, and just glad to be on Soccer Talk with everybody. Congratulating the Fort Lowell Shootout, 25 years. What a great anniversary. It's a great time for all of us to get together and enjoy young athletes from all over the region, really. So great opportunity. Glad to be with you.
Can you expand on that? What does this event do for youth soccer, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for their families to see their kids enjoying themselves, playing together, learning together, but also expands the reaches of soccer. And it helps us learn that we all share something together, and that's youth athletics. And that's so important to all of us. Great economic driver here in Tucson, too. People get out and spend some money and enjoy time with their families. So really just the kind of community event that is so important to all of us. So absolutely a great opportunity for all of us. 25 years. That's an amazing thing, and we should all be really proud of that. And it's also great to be having it happen on Martin Luther King Day weekend. I'm here at a Martin Luther King breakfast that's been taking place in Pueblo Gardens for those same 25 years. I think that's a great thing. It speaks volumes about Tucson. We care about social issues. We care about our youth. We care about athletics, and that's really important for all of us.
Well, Richard, first of all, we really appreciate you being able to call into the show today. We know that you're extremely busy with the Martin Luther King event that you're attending right now, and we're honored that you'll still call into Soccer Talk with FC Tucson. Can you comment a little bit? Obviously, you have become a very important part of the soccer community in Tucson as a person who, along with the Pima County Board of Supervisors, has really championed the development of new infrastructure for soccer in Tucson. How do you see that fitting in with, basically sustaining and growing a great event like the Fort Lowell Shootout?
Well, professional soccer and what you all are doing with FC Tucson and the investments that Pima County has made are really all about growing the sport and growing our athletes here in Tucson, and that starts with our youth. And I know that you all had some great openings and opportunities for people to get out and audition for the team, and that's what it's all about. I'd love to see every player wearing an FC Tucson jersey be from Tucson. But let's be honest, there's a bigger thing at stake than all of that, and that's the health of our kids. And being involved in sports helps them lead a healthy life. It helps them exercise and shake off the doldrums of the world and all the tough things that they face in school and in life, and gives them an opportunity to enjoy things. So that is not lost on us either. Professional sports is about glamour, it's about achievement, it's about all those things. But more importantly, it's about the development of our youth. And I know that's the way the Board of Supervisors looks at it. And we're just proud to be associated with the gains that we've all made. And like Paul said, this is not the start. This is something that is growing and has been growing for 20-some years now, 25 years with the Shootout. That is commitment to community. That's commitment to our youth. That's how we change things and make people grow.
All right, Richard, do you want to hang out with us in the next segment? Because we got to go to break here.
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Awesome. Richard Elias, Supervisor of District 5 here in Tucson, Arizona. We'll have him on the next segment as well. We're going to take a quick break, though, right now. And when we come back, Soccer Talk with FC Tucson on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9. We'll roll on live from Fort Lowell Park at the Shootout. And we're going to wrap up this last segment here of Soccer Talk with FC Tucson as we are live from the Tucson Association of Realtors Shootout Tournament here at Fort Lowell Park. I'm Joey Putrelo with Greg Foster of FC Tucson and Dave Ord of the Arizona Daily Star. We have Richard Elias on the line with us still right now, the Supervisor of District 5 here in Tucson. And Richard, we appreciate you taking more time out of your morning to be with us.
Sure, it's a real pleasure to be here, and And also I wanted to, again, thank the Tucson Association of Realtors for sponsoring such a great event, and really shows that their heart and their minds are in the right place for all of us. So thank you again to the Association of Realtors here in town.
You're absolutely right, Richard. What do they say about real estate? It's all about location, location, location. Well, this is the location to be at today. A wonderful event they have here. And one of the things I thought about today, and you sort of mentioned that it was Martin Luther King weekend and you're doing the events for that. But Martin Luther King was a civil rights leader, obviously all about diversity and everybody from every background having the same equality and working together and being one complete group. And the great thing about this shootout is that that's kind of what it's supposed to be. You see kids out here from all different kinds of backgrounds, races, ethnic backgrounds and religions. And it's really awesome. Kind of talk about that and what that means to you.
Well, I think it's critical to all of us as well. And my friend Greg Foster is always talking about how soccer takes in the entire social fabric of the world. And it's true. And there's been difficulties in a lot of stadiums with race issues related to soccer going on. But that's not what we do here. That's not how our kids are raised. That's not what the Fort Lowell Shootout is about. This is about the opportunity to learn and share and excel in sports and show that we all can be successful and that we all contribute to making something successful. So the young people that are out there playing and learning and experiencing each other and people from different cultures, what a great opportunity for them and their families to recognize that equality issue that we cherish here in the United States, that we cherish here in Arizona, and that we cherish here in Tucson especially. And I'm proud of that. I'm a fifth-generation Tucsonan. So the diversity that we have in our community is something that's beautiful and strong, and our kids are the strongest ones of all. I got to tell you that because I'm a person who grew up in the 70s and 60s and saw some of those civil rights things happen. But I learn every day from my 21-year-old daughter about how to understand civil rights even more. And I know that's what our kids are teaching us all today out there on the fields. That's what that big parade last night taught us all. And thanks to the Star for the great coverage. They gave it in the paper, too. A wonderful thing to see everybody together, sharing and happy and strong. So important to all of us.
All right. Well, Richard, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day.
Hey, it's an honor to be on here with you guys. I love soccer. I love what's happening here in Tucson. I especially respect the people who put on the shootout, and it just makes me proud to be a small part of it. And I will always support and honor those people involved in the soccer community here in Tucson and Pima County.
All right. Have a great one, Richard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard.
All right. Richard Elias, ladies and gentlemen, the Supervisor of District 5 here in beautiful Tucson, Arizona. Wrapping up our show now here at the Shootout. I wanted to talk about some news around the MLS. Josie Altidore is coming back to Major League Soccer again. He signed for 5 years, $30 million after an 18-month stint with Sunderland. I think what's interesting about this story, though, is he's a high-profile player, but Montreal, San Jose, Colorado, Chicago, and Houston all had the opportunity to get him, but they passed, and Toronto was next in line, and they were the ones that signed him.
Well, I can't let this moment go without saying that the signing I was happiest about this week was Mix Diskerud to New York City Football Club. Anybody who listens to this show knows that I really think that guy's going to be a special addition to Major League Soccer, both as a player and as a personality. But we're talking about Josie Altidore. I don't know why those teams, chose not to spend their money on Josie Altidore. I think that in some ways people overlook the quality that he has. That guy scored over 30 goals in the Eredivisie, just 2 years ago in the top Dutch league. He was purchased by an English club that just is a little bit, it's not, they don't have the attacking sensibilities of so many other clubs, and I think that he was really put in a position where there was no chance for success. I think Toronto's made a great purchase here. It's going to be popular with the fans. I'd love to see, a U.S. men's national team center midfielder linking up with the U.S. men's national team striker. I think there's a lot to watch here, so I'm glad Toronto did spend the money.
Dave, in a nutshell, is this the best offseason in MLS history?
Oh, absolutely. You know what? It's not only the best, but it's the most visible. The amount of stories we've seen come out, not just on soccer sites, but just on sports sites in general, has been hugely different than it has been. This is almost like the NBA offseason or the NHL offseason, where there are as many stories as there are during the regular season.
All right, well, look out for this episode of Soccer Talk on YouTube as it is being taped right now here. We are live from the Tucson Association of Realtors Shootout. Thanks again to Diana Cannon, Paul Cunningham, and Richard Elias for joining us this morning. And we'll be back next week, Saturday morning, 9 o'clock a.m. on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM.